Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair of the pilot briefing room, staring at the empty coffee cup in his hands. The Terra Defense Command base was quiet at this hour. Most pilots were either sleeping or playing cards in the rec room. Jake preferred the silence. It helped him think about his next mission. The briefing room smelled like old coffee and cleaning fluid. Gray walls surrounded him, covered with flight charts and duty rosters. Red warning lights blinked slowly on the communication panel. Everything looked normal for another boring night shift at the edge of human space. Jake was tired. 3 months of patrol missions had worn him down. Flying the same routes, checking the same empty sectors, finding nothing but space junk and old satellites. He missed real action. The kind that made his heart pound and his hands shake with excitement. At 32 years old, Jake had more combat hours than any other pilot in the Terra Defense Force. His fellow pilots called him the Ghost because enemy ships never saw him coming until it was too late. His record spoke for itself. 47 confirmed kills, 0 losses, and a reputation that scared pirates throughout human territory. But lately, there had been no pirates to fight, no raiders to chase, just endless patrols through empty space. Jake stood up and walked to the large window that looked out at the landing bays. His ship, the Lightning Strike, sat in Bay 7. The sleek fighter looked deadly even when powered down. Its black hull absorbed light, making it hard to see against the darkness of space. Jake had modified every system himself, pushing the engines and weapons far beyond their normal limits. The other pilots thought he was crazy. They said his ship would blow up one day from all the modifications. Jake just smiled when they said that. Safe ships were boring ships. He preferred to live on the edge. A sharp alarm cut through the quiet air. Jake spun around as red lights flashed across all the communication panels. The main screen flickered to life, showing static and interference. Someone was trying to send a message through the emergency channels. "What the hell?" Jake muttered, moving closer to the control panel. The static cleared for a moment, and an alien voice came through the speakers. The translator system worked, quickly, turning the strange sounds into words Jake could understand. "This is Captain Veltar of the merchant vessel Starwind Trader. We are under attack in the Void Sector. Repeat, we are under attack and need immediate assistance." Jake's heart started beating faster. An alien distress call. This was new. In all his years of service, he had never heard an alien ship ask humans for help. Most alien species looked down on humanity. They thought humans were too young, too violent, too unpredictable to be useful partners. The voice continued, sounding more desperate with each word. "Our engines are damaged. Life support is failing. Krillian raiders have us surrounded. Please, anyone who can hear this message, we have diplomatic envoys from 3 species aboard. Their deaths could start a war." Jake grabbed the communication controls and tried to boost the signal. The message was coming from very far away, at the edge of scanner range. The Void Sector was 3 days' travel from Earth, even at maximum speed. It was a lawless region where pirates and raiders hunted freely. "Our weapons are offline," the alien captain continued. "We cannot defend ourselves. The Krillians are waiting for our life support to fail completely. Then they will board our ship and take us as slaves. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help immediately." The transmission cut to static again. Jake worked the controls trying to get the signal back, but it was gone. He stared at the silent speakers for a long moment, his mind racing. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The door opened and Commander Lisa Hayes walked in, her uniform wrinkled from sleep. She had obviously been woken by the emergency alert. "Morrison, what's the situation?" she asked, moving to the main control panel. "Alien distress call from the Void Sector," Jake replied. "Merchant ship under attack by Krillian raiders. They're asking for help." Lisa frowned and called up the message on her screen. She played it back twice, listening carefully to every word. Her expression grew more serious with each replay. "Diplomatic envoys," she said quietly. "If they die, it could cause problems. Throughout the galaxy." Jake nodded. The captain sounded desperate, said their life support is failing and they can't defend themselves. Lisa pulled up a star chart on the main screen. The void sector appeared as a red zone marked with warning symbols. No government ships patrolled there. It was too dangerous, and too far from civilized space. 3 days at maximum warp, Lisa said, studying the distances. By the time any rescue fleet could reach them, they'd be dead or worse. What about the other alien governments? Jake asked. Surely they have ships closer to the void sector. Lisa shook her head. I've been monitoring galactic communications. All night. The Zephyrians, Aquarians, and Crystallines all received the same distress call. None of them are sending help. They say it's too dangerous. Jake felt anger building in his chest. They're just going to let those people die? It's not that simple, Lisa explained. The Krillians have at least 12 ships in that area. Any normal rescue mission would need twice that number to have a chance. No government wants to lose that many ships for one merchant vessel. Even with diplomatic envoys aboard? Even then. Lisa's voice was grim. The galactic powers have written them off. They'll send formal protest to the Krillian government, but that won't help the crew of the Starwind Trader. Jake stared at the star chart, calculating distances and travel times in his head. The lightning strike was fast, much faster than any normal ship. His modifications had pushed the engines far beyond their design limits. He might be able to reach the void sector in 18 hours if he pushed everything to maximum. What are you thinking, Morrison? Lisa asked, watching his expression. I'm thinking about taking a trip, Jake said quietly. Lisa's eyes widened. You can't be serious. It's a suicide mission. 12 Krillian raiders against 1 fighter? You'd be outnumbered, 12-1. I've faced worse odds. Not like this. The Krillians are professional pirates. They've been raiding ships in the void sector for decades. They know every trick, every hiding spot. Jake turned away from the star chart and looked at Lisa. So we just let those aliens die? We ignore their call for help because it's too dangerous? It's not our responsibility, Lisa said, but her voice lacked conviction. They're not even human. They're people, Jake replied. Scared people who are going to die unless someone helps them. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. She knew Jake well enough to recognize the look in his eyes. Once he made up his mind about something, nothing could change it. She had seen that same expression before every dangerous mission he had ever volunteered for. The other pilots won't follow you on this one, she said finally. Alex and Maria are good, but they're not crazy enough to fly into the void sector. I know, Jake said. I wouldn't ask them to. You'd go alone? If I have to? Lisa sighed, deeply. She looked at the communication panel, still showing static from the failed alien transmission. Somewhere in the darkness of the void sector, people were dying while the galaxy's governments did nothing. How long would it take you to prep the lightning strike? She asked. Jake smiled for the first time all night. Give me 30 minutes. Jake ran through the corridors of Terra Defense Command, his boots echoing against the metal floors. The base was coming alive as word of the alien distress call spread. Other pilots gathered in small groups, talking in hushed voices about the impossible rescue mission. In the pilot quarters, Alex Carter and Maria Rodriguez were waiting for him. They sat on his bunk, still wearing their flight suits from the evening patrol. Both looked worried. Jake, you can't do this, Alex said as soon as he walked in. 12 Krillian raiders? That's not bravery, that's suicide. Maria nodded in agreement. We've fought Krillians before. They're smart, well-armed, and they fight dirty. 1 ship against 12 is impossible odds. Jake pulled his flight gear from the locker, checking each piece carefully. His helmet was scratched from years of combat missions. The life support system had been upgraded 3 times. Everything was designed for maximum performance, not comfort. Those aliens are going to die if someone doesn't help them, Jake said, strapping on his equipment harness. Every government in the galaxy has decided they're not worth saving. Maybe the governments are right, Alex argued. Maybe it really is too dangerous. Jake stopped what he was doing and looked at his 2 closest friends. Alex had been his wingman for 5 years. Maria had saved his life twice in combat. They were good pilots, brave pilots, but they thought like military officers. They calculated risks and followed orders. You know what the difference is between us and them? Jake asked, pointing toward the ceiling where alien ships patrolled the outer system. They think before they act. They plan everything, calculate every risk, make sure they have enough ships and weapons before they move. That sounds smart to me, Maria said. Sometimes being smart means people die while you're making plans, Jake replied. Sometimes you have to do something stupid because it's the right thing to do. Alex stood up and put his hand on Jake's shoulder. Let us come with you. If you're determined to do this, at least take backup. Jake shook his head. This isn't your fight. Those aliens didn't call for the Terra Defense Force. They called for help from anyone who would listen. I'm answering that call, but I won't ask anyone else to die for my decision. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Jake, you're the best pilot we have. If you die out there, what happens to the rest of us? You'll be fine, Jake said, finishing his equipment check. You're both excellent pilots, better than most. He headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. If I don't make it back, tell Commander Hayes she was right to let me go. Some fights are worth taking even when you can't win. The walk to The landing bay felt longer than usual. Mechanics and ground crew stopped their work to watch him pass. Word had spread quickly about the suicide mission. Some of them looked at him like he was crazy. Others nodded with respect. The lightning strike sat in Bay 7, sleek and deadly under the bright work lights. The ship was Jake's masterpiece, a standard Terra defense fighter that he had rebuilt from the ground up. Every system had been modified, upgraded, or completely replaced. The fusion drive could produce twice the normal power output, but it ran hot enough to melt most ships. The armor plating used experimental materials that adapted to incoming fire, learning from each hit to become stronger. The weapon systems drew power directly from the main reactor, giving them devastating firepower at the cost of stability. Chief Mechanic Tony Valdez walked up as Jake began his pre-flight inspection. Tony was 50 years old, with graying hair and hands stained with engine oil. He had worked on the lightning strike for 3 years, helping Jake push the ship beyond all reasonable limits. She's ready to fly, Tony said, patting the ship's hull. I've pushed the fusion drive to maximum output. The power coupling should hold, but you'll need to watch the temperature readings. Jake nodded, running his hands along the ship's surface. The metal felt warm to the touch, as if the ship was eager to fly. What about the armor? Adaptive plating is fully charged, Tony replied. It should learn from the first few hits and adjust accordingly. But Jake, there's only so much punishment any ship can take. I know, Jake said quietly. Thanks for everything, Tony. The old mechanic smiled sadly. Bring her back in one piece, will you? I've put too much work into this ship to see it destroyed. In the void sector, Jake climbed into the cockpit and began the startup sequence. The ship's systems came online one by one, each displaying green status lights. The fusion drive hummed with barely contained power. The navigation computer calculated the fastest route to the void sector. Commander Hayes appeared at the side of the cockpit as Jake finished his final checks. She looked tired and worried, but her voice was steady when she spoke. I've cleared you for immediate departure, she said. Terra Command is officially logging this as a volunteer rescue mission. Whatever happens out there, you won't face a court-martial when you get back. If I get back, Jake corrected. When you get back, Hayes said firmly. That's an order, pilot. Jake smiled and gave her a casual salute. Yes, ma'am. I'll do my best to follow orders. The cockpit canopy sealed with a soft hiss. Jake felt the familiar comfort of being surrounded by his ship's systems. Every control was exactly where he expected it. Every display showed the information he needed. The lightning strike was more than a machine to him. It was a partner, a weapon, and his best chance of survival. The launch bay doors opened, revealing the star-filled darkness of space. Jake engaged the engines and felt the ship lift smoothly from the landing platform. The artificial gravity of the base fell away, replaced by the freedom of zero-G flight. As soon as he cleared the base's defense perimeter, Jake pushed the fusion drive to maximum power. The ship leaped forward like a bullet fired from a gun. The stars became lines of light as he accelerated past the speed that would tear apart most vessels. The lightning strike screamed through space at velocities that violated every safety regulation. In the Terra Defense Manual, the hull temperature rose to dangerous levels. Warning alarms sounded in the cockpit, but Jake ignored them. Time was running out for the crew of the Starwind Trader. Hours passed in a blur of hyperspace jumps and maximum burn acceleration. Jake's body was pressed deep into his pilot seat by forces that would kill an unprotected human. His flight suit's life support system worked overtime to keep him conscious and functional. The ship's computer kept track of their progress, counting down the distance to the void sector. 18 hours into the flight, Jake was closer to his destination than any rescue ship had ever been. But he was still racing against time. Navigation sensors began picking up debris fields and asteroid clusters that marked the edge of the void sector. This was lawless space where pirates and raiders hunted merchant ships far from any government protection. Jake reduced speed and activated the ship's stealth systems. The final approach had to be careful. If the Krillians detected him too early, they might kill their prisoners before he could reach them. Jake flew through asteroid fields and around dead planets using every bit of cover he could find. Finally, his sensors detected the Starwind Trader. The alien merchant ship was drifting powerless in space, surrounded by 12 Krillian raider vessels. The raiders circled their prey like hungry sharks, waiting for the crew to weaken further before moving in for the kill. Jake studied the tactical display, counting enemy ships and analyzing their positions. 12 against 1, the worst odds he had ever faced. But the alien crew was still alive, and that meant there was still hope. He opened a communication channel to the Starwind Trader, using the same frequency as their original distress call. "This is Jake Morrison of the Terra Defense Force," he said quietly. "I received your call for help. Hold on, I'm coming to get you out of there." The response from the Starwind Trader came immediately, filled with shock and disbelief. "Human vessel, this is Captain Veltar. You cannot be serious. There is only one of you against 12 Krillian raiders. Please leave this area before they detect you." Jake smiled grimly as he studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. The Krillian ships were arranged in a perfect circle around the disabled merchant vessel. It was a textbook siege formation, designed to prevent escape while conserving ammunition. The raiders were confident, patient, professional. "Captain Veltar, I didn't come all this way to turn around," Jake replied. "Keep your crew away from the outer hull. Things are about to get interesting." On the bridge of the lead Krillian raider, Captain Krakthos received the report from his sensor operator with amusement. The massive alien pirate had been raiding merchant ships for 20 years. His scarred face showed the results of countless battles. "One human fighter?" Krakthos laughed, his voice like grinding metal. "The humans must be even more foolish than I thought. Signal all ships. We have a new target to play with." The Krillian formation began to shift, their ships turning toward Jake's position. But they moved slowly, casually, like hunters who had spotted easy prey. In their experience, space combat was about overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. One ship against 12 was not a battle, it was an execution. Jake watched them turn and felt his heart rate increase. This was the moment he lived for. The split second before chaos erupted, when everything balanced on the edge of a knife. His hands moved across the control panels, bringing weapons online and charging the adaptive armor. Lightning strike systems. Check, he said to himself, running through his pre-combat routine. Fusion drive at maximum. Weapons charged. Armor ready. Let's show these pirates how humans fight. The first Krillian ship opened fire with long-range missiles, expecting Jake to retreat or take evasive action. Instead, Jake did something that shocked every alien in the area. He accelerated directly toward the incoming missiles, his ship's engine screaming at maximum power. The missiles were designed to track fleeing targets, not ships charging straight at them. Jake's unexpected maneuver confused their guidance systems. He flew through the missile spread, his adaptive armor absorbing the few hits he couldn't avoid. The armor learned from each impact, adjusting its structure to better resist similar attacks. "Impossible," whispered the Krillian sensor operator. "No pilot would fly directly into missile fire." But Jake was just getting started. Instead of attacking the nearest enemy ship, he dove toward the center of the Krillian formation. His ship twisted and spun through space, moving in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. The Krillians tried to track him with their weapons, but Jake was already somewhere else by the time they fired. He used the debris field around the Starwind trader as cover, disappearing behind chunks of metal and ice, then reappearing where the enemy least expected. His first attack came without warning. Jake emerged from behind a destroyed freighter and fired his main cannon at point-blank range into a Krillian raider's engine section. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. First kill confirmed, Jake said to himself, already moving toward his next target. The Krillian formation dissolved into chaos as the pirates realized they were fighting an enemy unlike anything they had faced before. Jake didn't follow their rules of engagement. He didn't maintain safe distances or fire calculated volleys. He fought like a predator, striking fast and disappearing before they could respond. Captain Veltar watched the battle from the bridge of the Starwind trader, unable to believe what he was seeing. The human pilot moved through space like he was dancing, turning the debris field into his personal weapon. Every piece of wreckage became cover, every asteroid became a hiding place. "How is he doing this?" asked Naya, the Aquarian engineer. Her blue-scaled hands worked frantically at the damaged control panels, trying to restore power to their systems. "Humans are unpredictable," replied Zexon, the crystalline navigator. His geometric body pulsed with different colors as he processed the tactical data. Their military tactics are based on chaos theory and emotional responses. Most species find such methods illogical. Jake's second kill came when he used a destroyed cargo container as a missile. He pushed the massive piece of debris with his ship's hull, accelerating it toward a Krillian raider that was trying to get a clear shot at him. The container struck the enemy ship's bridge, crushing the command center and sending the vessel spinning out of control. Krakthos roared with anger as he watched another of his ships die. "All vessels concentrate fire on that human. Stop playing with him and kill him." But concentrating their fire was exactly what Jake wanted them to do. When all the Krillian ships focused on him, they stopped watching each other. Jake flew between two raiders, then suddenly changed direction. The Krillians fired at where they thought he was going, but their weapons struck each other instead of their target. One raider's heavy cannon punched through another raider's hull, causing massive internal explosions. Jake had turned the enemy's superior firepower against themselves. 3 down, 9 to go, Jake muttered, checking his ship's status. The lightning strike had taken several hits, but the adaptive armor was holding. Each impact made the armor stronger and more resistant to similar attacks. The Krillians began to spread out, trying to surround Jake and eliminate his hiding places, but spreading out made them vulnerable to individual attacks. Jake picked off isolated ships one by one using hit-and-run tactics that left the pirates confused and angry. His fourth kill came when he hid inside the wreckage of a massive space station. When a Krillian raider came too close, investigating what they thought was empty debris, Jake erupted from the twisted metal like a striking snake. His ship's cannon fire tore through the raider's unprotected belly, splitting the ship in half. "This is impossible," Krakthos snarled. "How can one pilot be everywhere at once?" The answer was simple. Jake wasn't fighting like other species expected. While aliens relied on logic, calculations, and predictable tactics, humans had learned warfare on a planet where survival meant being cleverer than your enemies. Earth had taught humanity that sometimes the crazy plan was the only plan that worked. Jake's fifth kill required him to push his ship beyond its design limits. He flew directly at a Krillian raider, engaging it in what looked like a suicidal head-on attack. Both ships fired at maximum range, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. At the last second, Jake shut down his main engines and fired, his maneuvering thrusters in a pattern that spun his ship like a top. The Krillian weapons passed harmlessly through the space where his ship had been a split second before. Jake's return fire struck the enemy ship's reactor, causing a chain reaction that destroyed the entire vessel. 5 down, Jake said, breathing heavily. The high-G maneuvers were taking their toll on his body, but he couldn't afford to slow down. The remaining 7 Krillian ships were getting smarter, working together to try to trap him. On the Starwind trader, the alien crew watched in amazement as the lone human fighter continued to outmaneuver and destroy their attackers. Captain Veltar had seen many battles in his long career, but nothing like this. "He fights like the ancient heroes of my people," Veltar said quietly, with courage that borders on madness. Tim, the gentle Helix medic, monitored the human pilot's vital signs through the communication link. His heart rate is extremely elevated and his stress hormones are at dangerous levels. How can he function under such conditions? Humans evolved on a death world, Naya explained as she continued working on their damaged systems. They are adapted for extreme stress and violence. What would kill most of us only makes them stronger. Jake's sixth kill proved her point. Surrounded by 3 Krillian raiders with no cover and nowhere to run, Jake did something that no sane pilot would attempt. He overloaded his fusion drive, creating an electromagnetic pulse that disabled the raiders' electronics, while somehow keeping his own systems running. The 3 enemy ships drifted helplessly as their computers crashed and their weapons went offline. Jake destroyed them one by one with careful, precise shots, but the victory came at a cost. The Lightning Strike's fusion drive was now running dangerously hot, and several critical systems were showing warning signs. Jake had 6 kills, but his ship might not survive much longer, and Captain Crackthos still had 5 ships left, including his powerful flagship. Jake's ship shuddered as another enemy blast struck his weakening armor. The lightning strike had taken too much damage. Warning lights flashed across his control panel like angry red stars. The fusion drive temperature was climbing toward critical levels, and his left engine was losing power. "Lightning strike to Starwind Trader," Jake said into his communication system, breathing heavily. "I need to know what weapons you have left. Any defensive systems still working?" Captain Veltar's voice came through the speakers, filled with shame. "Human pilot, we are a merchant vessel. Our weapons are minimal, designed only to discourage pirates. Most of our systems are offline." Jake dodged another missile, the explosion close enough to rattle his teeth. 5 Krillian raiders remained, including their flagship. The pirates were getting smarter, working together to box him in. His hit-and-run tactics were becoming harder to execute as they learned to predict his movements. "What about your crew?" Jake asked, spinning his ship to avoid laser fire. "Anyone with military experience?" "Our engineer Naya served in the Aquarian Defense Force," Veltar replied. "Zexon, our navigator, has tactical training, but we are not warriors like you, human." "You don't have to be warriors," Jake said, narrowly missing a collision with space debris. "You just have to be willing to fight back." On the bridge of the Starwind Trader, the alien crew exchanged uncertain glances. They came from species that valued logic, planning, and careful decision-making. The idea of fighting back against overwhelming odds seemed impossible. Naya, the Aquarian engineer, was the first to speak. Her blue-scaled face showed determination, despite her fear. "What do you need us to do, human pilot?" "Call me Jake," he replied, executing a sharp turn that brought him behind a Krillian raider. His weapons fire damaged the enemy ship's engines but didn't destroy it. "Can you get any power to your defensive systems?" Naya's webbed fingers flew across her control panels. The Starwind Trader had been drifting powerless for hours, but she knew every circuit and power relay on the ship. "I can reroute backup power from life support. It will give us maybe 10 minutes of partial shields and 1 weapon system." "That's all I need," Jake said. "Zexon, I need you to calculate firing solutions. When I give you a target, I need you to tell me exactly where to hit it for maximum damage." The crystalline navigator's geometric body pulsed with different colors as he processed the request. "My people are mathematicians, not soldiers. But I understand physics and structural engineering. I can identify weak points in enemy ship designs." Jake smiled despite the danger. "Perfect. Tim, I need you to monitor my vital signs and keep me conscious. This is going to get rough." The gentle Helix medic extended sensor tendrils toward the communication array. "I can read your biological functions through the communication link. Your stress levels are already at dangerous heights, but I can provide guidance to help you maintain function." Captain Crackthos watched the battle from his flagship's bridge, growing more frustrated with each passing minute. 6 of his ships, destroyed by 1 human pilot. His reputation as a pirate lord was being destroyed along with his fleet. "Signal all remaining ships," he growled. "Spread formation. Force the human into the open where we can concentrate fire." The 5 surviving Krillian raiders began to move, trying to eliminate Jake's hiding places among the debris. But as they spread out, Jake saw his chance. He opened the communication channel to his alien allies. "Naya, power up your weapon now. Zexon, I'm sending you targeting data on the raider moving toward your starboard side. Where should I hit it?" Zexon's crystalline mind processed the enemy ship's design in seconds. The vessel has weak armor plating where the engine nacelles connect to the main hull. Precise fire at that junction should cause a cascade failure. Jake's ship darted from behind a piece of wreckage, heading straight for the targeted raider. The Krillian pilot saw him coming and turned to engage, but Jake wasn't planning a conventional attack. "Naya, fire your weapon at the raider's forward shields on my mark," Jake commanded. "Don't try to destroy it, just weaken its defenses." The Starwind trader's single working weapon came online, a weak energy beam that wouldn't normally damage a military vessel. But when it struck the raider's forward shields at the exact moment Jake attacked from behind, the combined assault overloaded the enemy's defensive systems. Jake's precise shot hit the weak point Zexon had identified. The raider's engine exploded, sending chunks of metal spinning through space. The ship broke apart like a puzzle coming undone. "7 down," Jake said, feeling a surge of hope. Working with the alien crew was giving him new tactical options. "Incredible," whispered Veltar. "We actually helped destroy an enemy ship." But their celebration was short-lived. The remaining 4 Krillian raiders, including Krakthos's flagship, converged on their position. The pirates were no longer playing games. They wanted blood. "Jake, your fusion drive temperature is critical," Tim reported, monitoring his ship's systems through the communication link. "If it overheats, your ship will be destroyed." "I know," Jake replied, sweat dripping down his face inside his helmet. "But we're not done yet." The next few minutes became a deadly dance of cooperation between species. Jake used his speed and maneuverability to stay alive while the alien crew provided support in ways their enemies never expected. When a Krillian raider got too close to the Starwind trader, Naya fired their weak weapon not at the enemy ship, but at a piece of debris, sending it tumbling into the raider's path. The collision didn't destroy the Krillian ship, but it damaged its sensors and threw off its aim. Jake used that moment of confusion to attack from an unexpected angle, his weapons tearing through the raider's hull. Another enemy ship destroyed, by teamwork between human and alien crews. 8 kills, Jake said, but his voice was getting weaker. The high-stress combat was exhausting his body, and his ship was barely holding together. Zexon continued to provide targeting data with mathematical precision. "The next raider has reinforced armor on its main hull, but the weapon pods are vulnerable. If you can disable its guns, it becomes harmless." "Understood," Jake replied, diving toward the targeted ship. But as he approached, his damaged engine finally gave out completely. The lightning strike suddenly lost half its power, making it slow and clumsy. The Krillian raider saw its chance and opened fire with everything it had. Jake tried to dodge, but his crippled ship couldn't maneuver fast enough. Energy blasts struck his hull, overloading his adaptive armor and causing massive internal damage. "Jake, your ship is critically damaged," Tim said urgently. "Your life support is failing and you have internal injuries." Jake tasted blood in his mouth and felt his vision starting to blur. But he wasn't done fighting. "Naya, can you ram that?" "Raider, your ship is bigger and heavier." "Ram them?" Naya's voice was shocked. "That could destroy us both." "Not if you do it right," Jake said, struggling to stay conscious. "Hit them with your cargo section. It's the strongest part of your ship. Section, calculate the impact angle that will disable them without destroying you." The crystalline navigator's body flashed with rapid calculations. "If we strike their engine section at a 17-degree angle with a velocity of 40 meters per second, we should disable their ship while maintaining structural integrity in our cargo hold." Captain Veltar made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "Do it. Prepare for ramming attack." The Starwind trader, which had been drifting helplessly for hours, suddenly came alive with purpose. Naya rerouted every bit of available power to the maneuvering thrusters. The merchant ship began to move slowly at first, then with growing speed. The Krillian raider saw them coming but couldn't believe what was happening. Merchant ships didn't attack military vessels. It went against everything they understood about alien behavior. The impact shook both ships violently. The Starwind trader's reinforced cargo section struck the raider's engine compartment with devastating force. The Krillian ship's power systems overloaded, leaving it drifting and defenseless. Jake, barely conscious in his damaged cockpit, managed to fire one last shot. His weapons finished off the disabled raider, bringing his kill count to 9. But Captain Krakthos and his flagship remained along with one other raider, and Jake's ship was dying around him. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the air was getting thin as his life support failed. "Jake, stay with us." Tim's voice came through the static-filled communication system. "We're not giving up, and neither should you." Jake's vision flickered as he fought to stay conscious. His ship's cockpit was filling with smoke from damaged systems. The lightning strike was dying, and he was dying with it. Through the static-filled communication system, he could hear the alien crew trying to encourage him. "Jake, your heart rate is dropping too fast," Tim said urgently. "You need to regulate your breathing. Focus on my voice." "I'm trying," Jake whispered, his hands shaking as he worked the controls. Blood from a head wound was running down his face, making it hard to see the instrument panels. Captain Krakthos watched from his flagship as the human pilot's ship drifted helplessly. The massive Krillian pirate smiled with satisfaction. The fight had cost him 9 ships, but he would finally have his revenge. "Signal the remaining raider," Krakthos ordered. "We finish this now. Destroy both ships." But as the 2 surviving Krillian vessels moved in for the kill, something unexpected happened. The crew of the Starwind trader refused to give up. "Naya, do we have any power left?" Captain Veltar asked. The Aquarian engineer checked her damaged systems. "Emergency power only. Maybe enough for one more weapon shot or a few minutes of maneuvering thrust. Then we use it," Veltar said firmly. "This human risked his life to save us. We will not abandon him now." Zexon's crystalline body pulsed with rapid calculations. "If we position ourselves between Jake's ship and the enemy flagship, we can shield him from their main weapons. Our hull is stronger than his damaged fighter." "That's suicide," Naya said. "Our shields are down. Their weapons will tear through our hull." "Maybe," Veltar replied. "But Jake faced 12 ships alone to save us. The least we can do is face 2 ships to save him." Jake heard their conversation through the failing communication system. Despite his injuries and exhaustion, he felt a surge of emotion. These aliens, who barely knew him, were willing to sacrifice themselves for a human pilot. "No," Jake said, his voice stronger despite his injuries. "Nobody else dies today. I have one more trick to play." Jake's hands moved across his control panels, calling up systems that most pilots would never use. The Lightning Strike's fusion drive was overheating, running far beyond safe limits. Any normal pilot would shut it down immediately. But Jake wasn't normal. "Computer, prepare for fusion drive overload," he said quietly. The ship's computer responded with alarm tones and warning messages. "Warning, fusion drive overload will result in ship destruction. Recommend immediate shutdown. Override safety." "Protocols," Jake commanded. "Authorization Morrison Alpha 7. Safety protocols overridden. Fusion drive overload in 60 seconds. Captain Krakthos brought his flagship within weapons range, savoring his victory. The human pilot's ship was clearly disabled, and the merchant vessel was no threat. In 1 minute, both ships would be destroyed and his reputation would be restored. "What is the human doing?" asked his weapons officer, watching the sensor readings. "Probably trying to restart his engines," Krakthos laughed. "It doesn't matter. He's too damaged to escape." But Jake wasn't trying to escape. He was turning his dying ship into a weapon. The fusion drive overload would create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to disable every electronic system within 1,000 kilometers. The explosion would also destroy the lightning strike and probably kill Jake, but it would give the alien crew a chance to survive. "Listen carefully," Jake said to the Starwind trader crew. "In 30 seconds, my ship is going to explode. The electromagnetic pulse will shut down the Krillian ships temporarily. When that happens, you need to run. Get as far away as possible before their systems come back online." "Jake, no," Veltar said desperately. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Jake replied, his voice calm despite the approaching death. "You have families to go home to. I'm just one pilot." Tim's medical sensors detected Jake's vital signs weakening. "Your injuries are too severe. Even if you survive the explosion, you won't live long enough for rescue." "I know," Jake said simply. "Take care of yourselves." But as Jake prepared for his final sacrifice, Naya made a discovery that changed everything. While working frantically on the ship's damaged systems, she found something that shouldn't have been possible. "Wait," she said excitedly. "Jake, your ship's adaptive armor isn't just learning from weapon hits, it's learning from your fusion drive's energy patterns. The armor might be able to contain a controlled overload." Jake's eyes widened. "What are you saying? If we can synchronize our ship's power systems with yours, we might be able to create a directed electromagnetic pulse instead of an explosion. Channel the energy toward the enemy ships while protecting both our vessels." Zexon's mathematical mind immediately began calculating the possibilities. The synchronization would require precise timing and perfect coordination. Any error could destroy us all. "It's better than certain death," Jake said, feeling hope returning. "How much time do we have?" 15 seconds, Naya replied, her fingers flying across the control panels. The next few seconds became a perfect example of cooperation between species. Jake's dying fighter and the damaged merchant ship worked together like parts of a single machine. Human engineering and alien science combined in ways that neither could achieve alone. At the moment of fusion drive overload, both ships channeled their remaining power into a synchronized energy pulse. The effect was devastating for the Krillian raiders. Their ship's electronics crashed instantly, leaving them blind and helpless in space. But instead of exploding, Jake's ship absorbed the fusion energy through its adaptive armor, which had learned to process and redirect the massive power surge. The lightning strike didn't die. It was reborn, its systems coming back online with more power than ever before. "Impossible," Krakthos whispered as his flagship drifted helplessly. Every system on his ship was dead. His weapons, engines, and life support were all offline. Jake's ship, glowing with residual energy from the controlled overload, moved toward the disabled Krillian vessels. His weapons were fully charged and ready to fire. "This is Jake Morrison to all Krillian vessels," he said over the communication system. "Your ships are disabled and defenseless. Surrender now, or I will destroy you." The remaining raider immediately transmitted a surrender signal. Its crew had watched Jake destroy 9 other ships and had no desire to join them. But Captain Krakthos was too proud to give up. "I am Krakthos, terror of the Void Sector," he roared. "I do not surrender to humans." "Then you die like the others," Jake replied simply. The lightning strike's main cannon fired once, precisely targeting the flagship's reactor core. The explosion lit up the darkness of space as Captain Krakthos and his ship were destroyed. The terror of the Void Sector was no more. Jake slumped back in his pilot seat, finally allowing exhaustion to take hold. "All enemy ships destroyed or surrendered," he reported. "Starwind Trader, you are safe." The journey back to civilized space took 3 days. Jake's ship, transformed by the fusion overload, was able to tow the damaged Starwind Trader to the nearest spaceport. Word of the impossible rescue spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The alien crew became humanity's first ambassadors to the galactic community. Captain Veltar petitioned the Galactic Council to grant humans full membership, arguing that any species capable of such courage deserved recognition. Naya shared her technical discoveries with human engineers, leading to advances in adaptive armor technology. Zexon published papers on human tactical theory that revolutionized military thinking across multiple worlds. Jake received medals from 6 different alien governments. The Zephyrians created a new honor called the Order of the Voidwalker specifically for him. The Aquarians granted him honorary citizenship. The Crystallines calculated that his actions had prevented a galactic war, but the most important recognition, came from the crew he had saved. They became his closest friends, visiting Earth regularly and sharing their knowledge with humanity. The bonds forged in battle transcended species differences. The story of the rescue in the Void Sector became legend. Pirates throughout the galaxy learned to fear human pilots, while merchant ships of all species learned to hope. If aliens found themselves in trouble, they knew they could call for help and humans would answer, no matter how impossible the odds. Jake Morrison returned to his duties at Terra Defense Command, but he was no longer just another pilot. He had become a symbol of what humans could achieve when they refused to give up, even when facing certain death. And in the cold darkness of space, where pirates once hunted freely, a new message echoed across the communication channels. "This is human. Space, you are not welcome here."